I canceled my mom's birthday plans after being banned from the celebration. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. Hi, Roger. This is Mel from Skyline Rooftop. Did you change your mind about the party? I stared at my phone like it had insulted me. My thumb hovered over speaker while my inbox refreshed with 3 new emails: catering, cake, and the jazz trio, all asking the same thing. Confirming cancellation per your request. I hadn't requested anything. Not yet. Mel kept talking. Greg called this morning. Said you told him you weren't coming, so you're pulling out. He asked me to transfer the remaining balance to Diane's name. My stomach dropped so hard I tasted pennies. I had booked the rooftop for Mom's 56th 2 months ago. I'd paid the $1,200 venue deposit on November 3rd at 9:14 p.m., right after Mom sent me a voice note crying happy tears about finally being celebrated. I had the receipt in my Apple Wallet. I had the contract PDF. My name was in bold on page 1. And I had also been told 3 days ago that I was not allowed to attend the celebration I planned. Mel, I said, trying to keep my voice level. Who told you I'm canceling? There was a pause. I heard office noise, a printer. Greg. He said you told him you weren't coming, so you're pulling out. He asked me to transfer the remaining balance to Diane's name. My hands went cold. I don't have episodes. I have boundaries. The kind my family calls drama when it gets in the way of their plans. While Mel waited, I opened the group chat, Diane's 56, and watched it update in real time. Tessa had just posted, "Please respect Mom's peace. Roger won't be there." Then Greg followed with, "We'll cover everything." No one mentioned money. No one mentioned money. The words burned, because everyone knew I'd already spent it. I whispered, "I need you to forward me whatever Greg sent." Mel hesitated. "I can, but you should know he asked me to delete your access." Outside my apartment window, the city looked normal. People walking dogs, a bus sighing at the curb, while my family quietly erased me from my own life. Then my mom called, and her first words made my chest go hollow. Mom has always loved birthdays the way some people love weather. She talks about them all week, like they're a force that can make everything feel lighter. When I was a kid, she'd tape construction paper streamers to the kitchen doorway and wake me up with pancakes shaped like hearts. She wasn't perfect, but she was the only parent who showed up. My dad dipped when I was 11. After that, money got weird. Mom worked doubles at the clinic, and I learned fast that if you wanted something, you earned it or you didn't get it. Tessa, somehow, never had to learn that lesson. She was the social one, the one who could smile her way out of consequences. I was the one who remembered the due dates. When Mom met Greg, I wanted to be happy for her. He was charming in that polished, suburban way, always talking about standards and presenting well. He brought wine to dinner and complained about cheap paper towels. The first time he looked around my tiny apartment and said, "So this is temporary, right?" Mom laughed like it was a joke. I didn't. Still, I stayed. I started paying for things I shouldn't have had to pay for, because Mom would sigh and say, "It's just been a hard month," and Greg would stare at his phone like finances were beneath him. I paid the $480 for her car repair last spring. I covered half of Thanksgiving groceries when Greg insisted on real pecans and a turkey big enough for an army. So when Mom mentioned her 56th and how she didn't want to fuss, I heard the part she didn't say. No one is going to do this for me unless you do. And I wanted, for once, to give her something uncomplicated. A rooftop, her favorite lemon cake, a little live music. Something that said, "You mattered," without strings. I made a spreadsheet at work between meetings. I negotiated vendors like it was my job. I asked Mom's friends for addresses. I even paid extra for a photo backdrop because Mom loves pictures, even when she hates herself in them. On December 18th at 6:32 p.m., Mom texted me a heart emoji and, "I can't believe you're doing this. Thank you, baby." I screenshotted it because I knew I'd need to remember it later. I just didn't know later would feel like betrayal. The band came on a Tuesday night, 3 days before the party, like a landlord raising rent with a smile. I was in my car outside Mom's place because Greg insisted we finalize details in person. I walked in carrying a folder, contracts, receipts, the seating chart I'd printed on nice cardstock because Greg loves professional. Mom stood at the counter twisting her ring. Greg sat with his arms folded, like a manager calling me into HR. Tessa lounged on the sofa scrolling. Greg said, "We need to talk about Friday." I tried to stay upbeat. "Great." The caterer confirmed dietary notes. "I'm just waiting on the Jazz Trio's set list." "Roger." Mom cut in, voice soft, eyes not meeting mine. "Honey, it might be better if you don't come." For a second I thought she meant I shouldn't come early, like I'd ruin a surprise. "What do you mean?" Greg leaned forward. "We're keeping it low stress. Your presence creates tension." "My presence." My face went hot. "I'm the one who booked." Tessa finally looked up. "It's not personal. Mom just wants peace. And you know how you get." "I know how I get." I heard myself laugh. "When—" Greg's mouth twitched like he'd been waiting. "When you're challenged. When you feel entitled. When you make things about you." I held up the folder. "I'm asking why I'm banned from my own mother's birthday." Mom's hands shook around a dish towel. "Please don't raise your voice," she whispered, like I was already yelling. "Greg says people will ask questions, and it'll turn into a thing." "A thing?" I tapped the receipts. "I've already paid almost everything." Greg stood and slid the folder back to me, like returning a receipt. "We appreciate that. You can still cover the remaining balance. We'll handle the guest experience." I stared at him. "So I'm the wallet, not the son." Tessa sighed. "There it is." Mom stepped closer, eyes glossy. "Roger, please. Just this once. Don't make a scene. Let me have a nice day." On the drive home, my phone buzzed with a new message from Greg. Greg's message arrived at 10:07 p.m., crisp like a memo. "For the sake of your mother, do not contact vendors directly. Any changes go through me. If you cause disruption, we will tell everyone why." Tell everyone why. Like there was a why they'd already agreed on. I didn't answer. I opened the email thread with Skyline Rooftop. The contract was in my name. The deposit was on my card. I could contact anyone I wanted. But Greg wasn't talking about rules. He was talking about the story. The next morning, the story went public. At 8:23 a.m., the group chat lit up. Greg added Aunt Mariah. Then he sent a paragraph with bullet points, like he was announcing a new policy. Update. Roger will not attend Diane's birthday to avoid tension. Please do not discuss it with Diane. If anyone asks, say Roger had a work conflict and insisted on keeping things simple. Gifts should be cash or checks made out to Diane. We'll collect to reduce clutter. Tessa replied instantly. "Thank you, Greg. Boundaries are healthy." Prayer hands. Of course. Mom didn't say anything. No heart. No, please don't. Just silence. I typed and deleted for 5 minutes. Finally, I didn't insist on anything. I was told I'm not allowed. Within 30 seconds, Greg reacted with a thumbs up. Then he texted me privately. "Stop. Don't embarrass your mother. If you want to be included later, behave." Behave. Like I was 12 and he was my principal. Then the cake shop emailed at 9:11 a.m. Except it wasn't just to me. Greg had been CC'd, and so had Tessa. Subject. Diane's cake pickup/payment change. "Hi Roger. Per Greg's request, we've updated the pickup contact and will invoice Diane directly. Please confirm cancellation of the lemon curd filling upgrade." I paid for that upgrade because Mom once told me it tasted like her grandmother's kitchen. I scrolled up and saw Greg's forward to the shop. "He's unstable. Please don't take his calls." I wasn't just uninvited. I was being managed like a risk. And sitting at my desk with my hands shaking, I realized they weren't afraid I'd ruin the party. They were afraid I'd show up with proof. I did the math the way I always do when I'm scared. Line by line, no feelings, just numbers. Skyline Rooftop, $1,200 deposit paid 11/03, non-refundable after December 20th. Remaining balance $2,450 due 01/06. Catering, $600 deposit paid 11/15, 50% refundable until January 4th, then 0. Cake, $180 paid in full, refundable until January 5th at noon. Jazz Trio, $300 deposit paid 12/02, refundable if canceled 72 hours prior. It was January 5th. I had maybe hours before the last doors slammed shut. My hands were still trembling from Greg's unstable email when Mom texted at 10:02 a.m. "Please just let Greg handle it. I don't want anyone upset." No apology. No, I love you. Just don't make anyone upset. I called her anyway. She picked up on the third ring. "Mom," I said, "are you really okay with me not coming?" Silence. Then, soft. "Honey, you know how Greg gets. He just wants it to be nice. I made it nice, I said. I did all of it. I know. And I'm grateful, she whispered, like gratitude could be a substitute for respect. Just, please, don't punish me for this. That word hit like a slap. Punish. Like my presence was a weapon and their ban was a boundary. I'm not punishing you, I said, voice tight. I'm refusing to be used. She started crying, quiet little gasps. Roger, please. Everyone already knows you're not coming. If you cancel now, it'll make me look. Make me look. There it was. Not feel. Look. I hung up because if I stayed on the phone, I would say something that would become their proof. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up the vendor contacts. I wrote a single sentence to each. Please confirm current payer and cancellation policy. I attached screenshots of my payment receipts. I didn't accuse anyone. I let the paper trail speak. Skyline replied first. We require written authorization from Roger to change billing. I stared at that line for a full minute. Greg had already tried to move my money without me. I typed back, hands steady now. This is my written authorization to cancel. My finger hovered over send, and I heard Greg's voice in my head. We will tell everyone why. So I hit send anyway, and waited for the explosion. The explosion started 12 minutes later. First, a call from Greg. I let it ring out. Then another. Then the group chat lit up. Greg, unbelievable. After everything your mother has done for you. Tessa, this is why we needed boundaries. Greg, you are humiliating Diane. Tessa, he's spiraling. Please ignore him. Then Mom. Roger, please answer. I answered because I hate myself a little when she begs. Her voice was wet. They said you canceled the rooftop. Is that true? I canceled what I paid for, I said. Because I was banned. Greg grabbed the phone. I heard it. You don't get to hold your mother hostage. I'm not holding anyone hostage, I said. You told vendors I'm unstable and tried to move the invoice to Mom's name. Why? You are not well, Greg said, calm as a therapist. This is exactly what I mean. You're vindictive. Tessa's voice floated in the background. Mom, I told you he'd do this. I felt something snap. Not dramatic, just exhausted. You cannot take my money, take my work, and erase me. You're making your mother's birthday about your ego, Greg said. If you care about her, you'll reinstate everything and then stay away. Mom whispered, people already RSVP'd. That was the trap, social shame as leverage. I pulled up my email and read, word for word, Greg's message to the cake shop calling me unstable. There was a pause. Then Mom said, very small, Greg, did you say that? Greg didn't flinch. I was protecting you from stress, Diane. Tessa jumped in, sweet as syrup. Roger, you know how Mom's anxiety is. If you loved her, you wouldn't do this the week of. If I loved her, I repeated, I've spent $2,280. I have a spreadsheet. Greg scoffed. Stop talking about money. It's tacky. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, a screenshot of a Facebook post. Someone had written, in bold, pray for Diane. Her son is trying to ruin her birthday. And the name at the bottom made my blood run cold. The name on the Facebook post was Tessa's. Not her profile picture, not a tag, her actual account, posting like she was the concerned daughter holding the family together. Dozens of comments already. Praying for your mom. Some kids are so ungrateful. Hope she's okay. And mixed in, one that made my throat tighten. Diane doesn't deserve this after everything she's been through with the finances. Finances. That wasn't a thing Mom had been through lately, at least not that I knew. Greg loved to act like money was tight while driving a newer SUV than mine. Tessa loved to act like Mom was fragile while pushing her into whatever looked best on social media. I texted Tessa a screenshot. Why are you posting this? She replied 5 minutes later. Because you're proving Greg right. Stop. Get help. No denial. No, it was a misunderstanding. Just get help, like I was a problem to be managed. Then Skyline forwarded me what Greg had sent them, because I asked for all communication regarding billing changes. Mel's email came in at 11:37 a.m. with a PDF attachment titled Forwarded Message. Greg's email, timestamped 7:48 a.m., said, please remove Roger from the contract. Diane will be the responsible party. We need the invoice in her name for documentation. Also, Roger is not permitted on site. Security has been informed. Security has been informed. I called Mel immediately. Did he really say security? She sounded uncomfortable. He asked if we could keep you out. I told him we don't do that unless there's a legal issue. There is no legal issue, I said, my voice shaking now. Did he give you anything in writing? A restraining order? Anything? No, she said. He just kept repeating that you were unstable. Unstable. That word was doing a lot of work for them. I opened the contract again and scrolled to the cancellation clause. It wasn't just about refunds. It listed who could authorize changes. Only me. So how did Greg think he could transfer everything to Mom's name like it was nothing? I stared at Greg's line, documentation, and suddenly a different kind of dread settled in. Because the only time Greg ever needed documentation was when a bank was involved. I didn't go nuclear. I did what Greg never expected. I got quiet. At lunch, I sat in my car and made calls like I was auditing my own life. The caterer answered first. I gave my name and the event date. I need to confirm the point of contact. Keyboard clicks. Right now it shows Greg. He emailed asking to add 2 extra tables and upgrade the bar package. The bar package? I repeated. This is a daytime brunch. Oh, she said, thrown. He said it was an evening party and to invoice Diane. He asked if we could label it Family Milestone Event for paperwork. For paperwork, I echoed, writing it down. Can you forward me his email? Sure, she said. But he told us not to speak to you. The Jazz Trio manager sounded wary. Greg asked if we could refund the deposit to a new card because you were not in a good place. We refused. We only refund to the original payer. Refund to a new card. Like he wanted my $300 back on his account. By 2:14 p.m., I had 3 forwarded emails, all repeating the same phrases. Unstable, don't contact Roger, invoice Diane, documentation, paperwork. It wasn't about peace. It was a coordinated narrative. After work, I drove to Aunt Mariah's. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and said, "Sit. Don't sugarcoat." I showed her the group chat screenshots, the vendor forwards, Tessa's Facebook post. Mariah read silently, jaw working, then muttered, "He's building a case." A case for what? I asked. She came back with a manila folder like she'd been waiting. 2 weeks ago, Diane asked me to witness something. Greg called it routine. It wasn't. Inside were copies of forms, a power of attorney packet, and a printout about home equity loans. Mom's name at the top, Greg's handwriting in the margins. My heart thudded. Why didn't you tell me? Mariah's eyes were sharp. Because Diane begged me not to start drama. She said you'd overreact. Overreact. Another word for noticing. I texted Mom. Did Greg ask you to sign bank paperwork? No reply. Then the caterer's forwarded email finished loading, and the last line made my hands go numb. It wasn't addressed to Greg, it was addressed to a loan officer. I opened the forwarded email and felt like I'd stepped into someone else's scam. Subject, supporting documentation, Diane Hollis event invoice. From, the caterer. To, J. Sandoval at First Maple Bank. Com. CC, Greg. The caterer wrote, as requested, we've updated the invoice to reflect Diane Hollis as the responsible party. Please see attached. Event labeled Family Milestone per your guidance. Greg replied at 7:52 a.m. Thank you. Please note Diane's adult son will not attend due to ongoing volatility. We are keeping the environment calm for her. Volatility. Calm. Environment. It read like a custody case, not a birthday brunch. And Greg had written it. Aunt Mariah leaned over my shoulder. She didn't look surprised. She looked furious. He's setting up a narrative that Diane needs protecting, she said. From me, I whispered. From anyone who'd stop him, she corrected. If he paints you as unstable, he isolates her, controls who speaks to her, controls what she signs. I thought about the power of attorney packet, the home equity printout, the group chat message about collecting gifts, cash, checks, all routed through Greg's hands. My stomach churned. Why use the party? Mariah tapped the screen. Witnesses. We were celebrating. She was happy. She agreed. Everyone saw. If you show up, you ask questions. If you don't, he gets the room. The ban wasn't about avoiding drama. It was about removing the one person who knew the numbers, who could say, why is my mother being invoiced for what I already paid? At 9:46 p.m., Mariah texted me a photo of a sticky note in Greg's handwriting. Appointment January 6, 10:30 a.m. First Maple. Bring Diane ID, Bring Roger drama explanation. Tomorrow. The day after I canceled. My throat went dry. He's taking her to the bank, I said to my empty apartment. Then I checked my email again and saw a new notification, marked urgent, from Skyline Rooftop. They had attached a security request form with my name on it. The security request form was a one-page PDF with checkboxes. Individual to be denied entry. Roger, last name. Reason, family safety concern. If individual arrives, call Greg's number. In notes, Greg had typed, "Please be discreet to avoid upsetting Diane." He was preloading an incident. If I showed up, I'd be removed. If I didn't, he'd tell everyone I was too unstable to attend. Either way, he got his storyline. I took screenshots because I don't trust attachments to stay available. Then Greg texted at 10:18 p.m. "Stop contacting vendors. You are harassing people. If you show up anywhere, we will call the police." A minute later, Mom called. I answered, hoping, stupidly, that she'd sound like herself. She sounded scripted. "Roger, please stop. Greg says you're scaring everyone." "I'm scaring everyone?" I asked. "Mom, he told a bank I'm volatile. He's taking you to First Maple tomorrow." Silence. Then Greg's voice, too close to the mic. "Diane doesn't need to explain her marriage to you. Why is a loan officer CC'd on my party invoices?" I demanded. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said, smooth as glass. "You're spiraling again. This is why you can't be there." "I'm not spiraling," I said, but my voice shook, and I knew he'd use that. "I have the emails." Tessa chimed in, like she'd been waiting on speaker. "Roger, you need to stop obsessing. You're going to ruin Mom's life." Mom's voice came back, small. "Honey, maybe we should take a break from talking for a while." A break. The polite version of being cut off. I sat on my kitchen floor, staring at my receipts like they were evidence in a trial I didn't ask for. My chest hurt. I actually wondered if I was the problem, because that's what being labeled difficult does to you. Then Aunt Mariah called. "Breathe," she said before I could speak. "He wants you frantic. Don't give him that. Tomorrow, we get facts in front of witnesses." "What witnesses?" I asked, wiping my face with my sleeve. Mariah said, "Tomorrow we walk into that bank with screenshots." At 6:05 a.m., I printed everything like I was building a case file. Screenshots of the group chat where Greg wrote, "No one mentioned money." The forwarded vendor emails with "unstable" highlighted in neon. The security request form with my name typed under "denied entry." The invoice labeled "family milestone event" addressed to the loan officer. I put them in a folder and drove to Aunt Mariah's. She handed me coffee and looked me dead in the eye. "Rule 1, she said. "You stay calm. If you raise your voice, he wins." "I know," I said, even though my stomach felt like wet cement. Rule 2 was her idea. "Don't just confront Greg. Make the truth unavoidable." Mariah pulled up the bank's website and found the general email format. The loan officer's address was already on the forwarded chain, so I wrote him directly at 7:02 a.m. Subject, question about invoice documentation for Diane Hollis. "Hi, Mr. Sandoval. I'm Roger, the original contract holder for the event invoice you were CC'd on. I did not authorize billing changes to my mother. Can you confirm what documentation you requested and why? I'm concerned Diane is being pressured to sign something she doesn't understand." I attached the invoice chain and the security request form. No emotion, just facts. At 7:26 a.m., he replied, "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I cannot discuss client information by email. If Diane is available, I'd like to speak with her privately before today's appointment." Privately. Before today's appointment. Mariah read it and nodded once. Perfect. That means he's taking this seriously. I texted Mom. "Please meet me at First Maple at 10:15. I have documents you need to see." No reply. Then, 5 minutes later, Tessa texted, "Don't show up. You'll make Mom panic. If you love her, stay away." Same script, different mouth. So we did the next best thing. Mariah and I drove to the bank anyway, early enough that Greg couldn't claim I burst in. We sat in the lobby like normal customers, my folder on my lap, my hands clasped so tight my knuckles hurt. At 10:28, the glass doors opened, and I saw Mom's coat first. Then Greg's face turned toward me, and he froze mid-step. Greg recovered fast, stepping between me and Mom like I was a hazard. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "I'm not here to fight," I said. I'm here so Mom doesn't sign something she doesn't understand. Greg gave Mom a practiced laugh. See? Paranoia. This is why we needed peace. Mariah said evenly. We're waiting for Javier Sandoval. Greg's face twitched. Mom blinked. Who? The loan officer you're meeting, I said. Mom, why is a bank involved in your birthday invoices? A man in a suit stepped out. Diane Hollis? I'm Javier Sandoval. Greg snapped. This is inappropriate. Javier stayed polite. Given the documentation I received, I need to speak with Diane privately first. Mom looked at Greg, then at me. Yes, she said. Privately. 2 minutes later, Javier opened the meeting room door. Roger, Diane wants you to explain the invoices you paid. Greg jumped up. No. Javier didn't look at him. He's the original contract holder. I sat across from Mom and opened my folder. No speeches. Just the trail, vendor emails where Greg called me unstable, the invoice addressed to Javier, the security request form, the group chat where Greg wrote, "We'll collect gifts." Mom read, breathing shallow. Then she slid the home equity printout Mariah brought onto the table, Greg's handwriting in the margins, and asked, "Did you try to borrow against my house?" Greg's face flushed. It's not like that. Javier's pen stopped. Diane, do you understand this loan? Mom didn't answer. She just stared at Greg. Why did you tell everyone to give me cash you'd collect? Greg spoke too fast. Because you get overwhelmed. I was helping. Mariah leaned in. Helping you pay what, Greg? For once, he couldn't charm his way out. Panic broke through. We're behind, he snapped. Tessa needs the condo deposit. I thought you'd agree once it was done. Mom's eyes filled, but her voice went flat. So you erased my son to take my house. Greg finally confessed what the party was really funding. Javier didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Diane, he said, I'm stopping this application today. If you ever proceed, we'll require independent counsel and verification you're acting freely. Greg's face went red. This is ridiculous. He set me up. Mom stared at him like she was seeing the last 5 years at once. You told people my son was volatile, she said. You tried to borrow against my house. You used my birthday as paperwork. Greg jabbed a finger at me. He canceled everything. He humiliated you. He's the problem. Mom finally looked at me. Her eyes were wet, but not apologetic yet, just shocked. Did you cancel the rooftop? Yes, I said. Because I was banned. Because he was moving invoices into your name. Her shoulders sagged. Then she turned back to Greg. Give me your phone. Greg laughed. No. Mariah stood. Then we call the police and report financial coercion. Your choice. Greg shoved his phone across the table like it burned him. Mom opened it with shaking fingers. I watched her scroll, and the color drained from her face. Emails from creditors. Past due notices. A final warning about an auto loan. And a thread with Tessa where she'd typed. Mom will never say no if we make it look inevitable. Tessa appeared in the doorway, saw the screen, and snapped. That's private. Mom's voice shook, then steadied. So is my house. Greg started talking over everyone. Temporary, stressed, misunderstanding. It all sounded like static now. Javier excused himself. Mariah guided Mom out while Greg glared at me like I'd stolen his future. By evening, the group chat was on fire. Greg posted, Diane's been confused today. Please give her space. Tessa followed with, Roger ambushed Mom at the bank. Mariah replied with one sentence. Stop lying. We were with a loan officer. Then she sent the screenshots I'd collected, and the chat went silent. That afternoon, Mom sat at Mariah's kitchen table and changed her online banking password. She asked me to help her pull her credit report just to be safe. When it loaded, a new account popped up that none of us recognized. The new account was a store credit card opened 3 months ago in Mom's name. Mom swore she'd never applied. The address on file was Greg's email and his phone number. Javier's office advised her to file an identity theft report and put a freeze on her credit. Hearing my mother say the words identity theft about her own husband made my stomach twist. Greg moved out the next day, technically to give Diane space, according to his text, after Mom changed the locks and left his duffel bag on the porch. Tessa didn't come to help her. Tessa didn't call to check on her. Tessa did, however, post another vague Facebook status about toxic people ruining families. I wanted to go scorched earth. I wanted to write a public novel in that group chat and attach every screenshot like an exhibit. But Mariah told me something that stuck. Justice is not the same as noise. So I got practical. I canceled the remaining vendors officially and got what refunds I could. $300 back from the trio, $90 from the cake shop, because I caught the noon cutoff by 11 minutes. The catering deposit was gone. Total loss, $1,890. Seeing the number in my spreadsheet made me nauseous, but it also made me clear I wasn't going to pay that price again. Mom and I met at Mariah's kitchen table with a notepad like we were negotiating a treaty. I'll help you, I told Mom. But I'm not your secret. I'm not your shame. And I'm not paying for things I'm not allowed to be part of. She nodded too fast. I understand. Also, I said, voice shaking but steady. If you bring Greg back without counseling and separate finances, I'm stepping back. Not to punish you. To protect me. Mom pressed her lips together, fighting tears. I don't want to lose you. I didn't want to be banned from your birthday, I said. That was the first time she apologized without qualifying it. I'm sorry, she whispered. I let him talk me into it. I started therapy the following week because I realized I'd spent my whole life earning love like it was rent. I also started sleeping with my phone on Do Not Disturb, which felt like learning a new language. 2 nights later, Mom called and asked if we could talk about the ban. And when she finally explained why she agreed, my hands went cold. Mom called at 9:03 p.m. I could hear the TV in the background, like she'd turned it up to fill the quiet. I need to tell you the truth, she said. Greg had given her an ultimatum the night I came over with the folder. He said if you came, Mom whispered, he would leave. And he said he'd tell everyone you were unstable and that I needed protection. You believed him? I asked, quieter than I felt. I didn't believe you were unstable, she said. I believed people would believe him. And I couldn't stand the thought of being pitted. There it was again. Look, not feel. She confessed the part that made my stomach drop. When Greg started talking about the bank, he said they needed proof I wasn't being influenced by you. He wanted a clean story. He said, if Roger shows up, it ruins it. So you erased me, I said. I did, she breathed. I was tired. I wanted one day where no one was mad at me. I stared at my hands. Mom, I have been mad at myself for you my whole life. She cried, and for once she didn't try to make it pretty. I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry I used your love like a credit line. The next Saturday, we didn't have a rooftop or a jazz trio. We had Aunt Mariah's kitchen. Mariah lit one candle and stuck it into the salvaged lemon cake, slice-eyed frozen, like proof the plan had existed. Mom laughed and cried at the same time. This is ridiculous, she said. And then, this is perfect. Tessa didn't come. She sent a text that said, I hope you're happy, which isn't an apology, but it told me everything. Greg sent a stiff email asking for personal property, and Mom forwarded it to an attorney. I'm not going to pretend it wrapped up neatly. Mom still flinches at judgment. I still feel the old itch to fix everything with my wallet. But now I have rules. If someone bans you from the table, you don't cater the meal. Keep receipts, not to be petty, but to stay sane when they rewrite reality. If a parent seems isolated or pressured, check their finances and freeze credit fast. Most importantly, stop confusing being useful with being loved.